When does "she's just a friend" stop being believable? After 7 years with my boyfriend, I found out he was cheating with the woman he swore wasn't even into guys. We met at a house party sophomore year. Mark was across the room playing beer pong when he caught my eye. "You're staring," my roommate Chloe said. "He's cute." Mark walked over 5 minutes later. "I'm terrible at beer pong, but great at buying drinks." We went to Murphy's Pub that night. He ordered for both of us without asking. Whiskey sours. "How did you know I'd like this?" "Lucky guess." We closed down the bar talking about everything. Movies, books, our families back home. He walked me to my dorm at 3 a.m., kissed me under the broken streetlight by the library. "I'm going to see you again," he said. It wasn't a question. The next morning, there was a coffee waiting outside my door. Black coffee with 2 sugars. My exact order from the campus cafe. He'd been paying attention. By Christmas break, we were inseparable. Mark fit into my family like he'd always belonged there. My dad taught him to fish. My mom made his favorite cookies whenever he visited. "He's a keeper," she whispered during Thanksgiving dinner. I thought so too. Junior year, I studied abroad in London for a semester. 4 months felt like forever. "We'll Skype every day," Mark promised at the airport. "I'll count down the minutes until you're back." The first month was perfect. Daily video calls, constant texting, care packages with my favorite snacks. Then his calls became shorter, less frequent. "Midterms are killing me," he explained when I asked about our missed Tuesday call. "The time difference is confusing me." I understood. Junior year was brutal for everyone, but something felt off during my spring break visit home. Mark seemed distracted, checked his phone constantly during dinner, yawned through the movie we'd been excited to see. "Are you okay?" "Just tired. This semester's been rough." He barely touched me that week, said he was getting sick and didn't want me to catch anything. I flew back to London with a knot in my stomach. 3 weeks later, Natalie Reyes messaged me on Facebook. We'd lived on the same floor freshman year. "Hey girl, I know this is random, but I saw Mark at the Sigma Chi party last weekend." My heart stopped. He was making out with some blonde girl by the pool. The message sat on my screen for 10 minutes. I read it over and over. My hands were shaking when I called Mark. It was 3 a.m. his time. "Babe, what's wrong?" "Were you at a party last weekend?" Silence too long. "What party?" "Sigma Chi. Natalie said she saw you there." "Natalie who?" "Natalie from my freshman floor. She said you were with someone." Mark laughed, but it sounded forced. "Natalie's always been dramatic. You know that." Did I know that? I barely remembered Natalie from 2 years ago. She seemed really sure it was you. "I was in the library all weekend. Check my Instagram if you don't believe me." His voice was getting defensive. I felt terrible for doubting him. "I'm sorry, don't apologize, but don't listen to gossip either." I hung up feeling guilty. Natalie was probably mistaken. When I came back in May, Mark was waiting at baggage claim with roses. Red ones, my favorite. "Welcome home, beautiful." He spun me around like we were in a movie. All my London doubts evaporated. Senior year, we got our first apartment together. A tiny 1-bedroom off campus. The kitchen was barely big enough for 2 people, but it was ours. "Practice for the real thing," Mark said, kissing my forehead as we unpacked boxes. The real thing. Marriage, our forever home. I started dropping hints about engagement rings, left my laptop open to jewelry websites. Mark would smile and change the subject, but I figured he was planning something. November came with job applications and thesis stress. Mark spent more time at the library. His phone habits started changing too. Always face down during dinner. When it buzzed during our Netflix nights, he'd flip it over quickly. Group chat, he'd mumble. When I needed to use his phone for something, dead battery, lost charger, he'd tense up. "Can you use your own?" "Mine's dead." Then wait for it to charge. It stung, but I told myself he was stressed about graduation. His social media changed too. Our couple photos disappeared from his Instagram. "Why'd you delete our pictures?" "I'm trying to look more professional online for job interviews." But he still posted gym selfies and weekend photos with friends, just never with me. It was like I'd been erased from his digital life. Arguments became frequent. Every concern I raised got twisted back on me. "You're being really insecure lately. Maybe you should talk to someone about these trust issues." Trust issues? I'd never been jealous before Mark started acting shady, but he said it with such conviction that I started believing him. Maybe I was being paranoid, clingy, demanding too much attention. After graduation, we moved to Brooklyn, found a 1-bedroom in Park Slope. The rent was astronomical, but we'd make it work together. Mark landed a job at a marketing agency in Manhattan. I found work at a nonprofit in Queens. Our commutes went in opposite directions. We barely saw each other during the week. "Everyone at my company works late," Mark explained when he started coming home at 9 p.m. "It's just the culture there." I'd eat dinner alone most nights, watching Netflix on my laptop at our tiny kitchen table. Weekends were supposed to be our time, but Mark made friends fast at work. Friday happy hours, Saturday networking events, Sunday gym sessions with colleagues. "I need to network if I want to get promoted. Can I come sometimes? I'd love to meet your work friends." "They're pretty boring. You wouldn't enjoy it." I suggested compromises. "What if I just come for dinner and leave before the bars?" "Sure, next time." Next time never came. Something always came up at the last minute. Rain check, client emergency. So sorry, team meeting ran long. It happened every single time I was supposed to meet his coworkers. His gym routine became sacred. 3 hours every weeknight after work. I need this time to decompress. Work is really stressful. Exercise helps me cope. I understood stress. My job was demanding too. But I still made time for us. He seemed to make time for everything except us. His work friend group included this girl named Maya Chen. She commented on all his posts. Fire emojis on his workout selfies. Looking good on his food photos. "Who's Maya?" I asked casually one evening. "She works in our creative department. She comments on your stuff a lot." Mark didn't look up from his phone. "She doesn't like guys. Has a girlfriend and everything." That made me feel better. If that was true, there was nothing to worry about. "What's her girlfriend like?" "I don't know. I don't really hang out with them outside work." But Maya texted him constantly. His phone buzzed during movies, during conversations, during sex. "Sorry, work stuff," he'd say, but I noticed he smiled when he read her messages. Not the way you smile at work emails. I started paying attention to when these texts came. Always evenings, always weekends. "What kind of work emergency happens at 11 p.m. on Sunday?" "You don't understand agency life," Mark snapped. "We're always on call. I'm just curious." Stop being so nosy about my job. Nosy. For asking about his work. The word stung more than it should have. Our physical relationship started deteriorating. Mark would come to bed after I was asleep. Wake up before me for early gym sessions. We barely touched anymore. Sex became monthly, then non-existent. When I brought it up, he sighed heavily. "You're so needy lately. I need space to breathe." Needy. For wanting intimacy with my boyfriend of 6 years. I started going to therapy, convinced I was the problem. Dr. Rodriguez had kind eyes but asked uncomfortable questions. "Do you feel heard in your relationship? Does he make time for things that matter to you? When you express concerns, how does he respond?" The answers were all no, but I kept making excuses for him. Work stress, city adjustment, normal relationship growing pains. "What would need to change for you to feel valued?" she asked. I couldn't answer. The list felt impossibly long. Meanwhile, I was shrinking, walking on eggshells every day, afraid to ask where he was going, who he was with, when he'd be home, because questions always led to fights dates where I ended up apologizing. My friend Taylor noticed during one of our rare coffee dates. You seem different, tired. Just busy with work. But it wasn't work. It was the constant anxiety of living with someone who made me feel crazy. November brought the holiday party season. Mark worked late every night. Year-end crunch, he explained. Everyone's putting in overtime. But his Instagram showed office parties I'd never heard about. Group photos at bars, team dinners at fancy restaurants, pictures of him laughing with coworkers, including Maya. She was nothing like I'd imagined. Tall, blonde, stunning. Definitely not what I'd expected from someone who was supposedly not into guys. The party looks fun, I said casually, showing him the photos. It was okay, just work stuff. Maya's really pretty. He barely glanced at the screen. I guess. I don't really notice. But I'd seen him notice. Seen the way he looked at her in those group shots. The same way he used to look at me. New Year's Eve was the breaking point. Mark said he had to work. On New Year's Eve? Big presentation on January 2nd. The whole team's pulling an all-nighter. I spent New Year's Eve alone in our apartment. Watched the ball drop on TV. Texted him at midnight. Happy New Year? Love you. He responded 4 hours later. You too. 2 words. After 7 years together. January brought new levels of distance. Mark started staying out until 3 a.m. regularly. Coming home smelling like alcohol and perfume. Always the same perfume. Something floral and expensive. How was the work event? I'd ask. Fine. We went to a few bars after. You smell like perfume. Probably from hugging people goodbye. You're being paranoid. Paranoid. His new favorite word for me. Every concern was paranoia. Every question was an accusation. His phone became completely forbidden territory. New passcode. Never left unattended. When I asked about the passcode change, he exploded. You don't trust me. I used to know your passcode. That doesn't give you the right to go through my phone. I'd never gone through his phone, but his reaction made me want to. He stormed out that night. Didn't come home until the next evening. I needed space after that fight. No explanation of where he'd spent 18 hours. My friend Taylor finally cornered me at a coffee shop in March. You look miserable. Thanks. I'm serious. When's the last time you smiled? Really smiled? I couldn't remember. This isn't normal, she said. Healthy relationships don't look like this. We're just going through a rough patch. It's been a rough year. Maybe longer. She was right. I'd been making excuses for months. You deserve better than walking on eggshells in your own relationship. That night, I looked at myself in our bathroom mirror. Really looked. When had I become this person? Anxious, suspicious, constantly second-guessing myself? I used to be confident, happy, independent. Mark had turned me into someone I didn't recognize. 2 weeks later, everything changed. Mark said he had a client dinner Thursday night. Sent me a text at 6 p.m. Dinner running late, don't wait up. I decided to surprise him. Walked to the restaurant district near his office around 8 p.m. Maybe we could grab a drink after his work thing ended. I checked 3 restaurants before I found him. Through the window of a wine bar, I saw Mark laughing with Maya. Just the 2 of them. No client, no work group. Maya was leaning across the table, touching his hand while she talked. He was looking at her the way he used to look at me, completely absorbed. I stood on the sidewalk for 10 minutes watching my boyfriend on a date with the woman he told me didn't like guys. I walked home in a daze, sat on our couch until 2 a.m. waiting for him. He came in drunk, humming some song under his breath. How was the client dinner? Good, really productive. The lie rolled off his tongue like he'd practiced it. Who was the client? You wouldn't know them, boring finance people. He kissed my forehead and headed for the shower. I sat there listening to the water run, knowing I just watched him lie to my face. Sunday morning, I tested him. Want to get brunch? Can't. Meeting the guys at the gym. Which guys? Work friends. You don't know them. 2 hours later, I drove past his gym. His car wasn't there. I felt like a stalker, but I had to know. I found his silver Honda in the parking lot of Maya's apartment complex. The same complex I'd driven him to 6 months ago when he said his coworker needed help moving. I'd waited in the car that day while he went upstairs to help. 2 hours to move furniture for someone who was supposedly not into him. Everything clicked into place. All the lies, all the excuses, the late nights, the perfume, the secret phone calls. How long had this been going on? I drove home and opened my laptop. Started researching Maya Chen. Her LinkedIn showed she worked at Mark's company. Her Instagram was public. Photos of her at restaurants I recognized. Places Mark had claimed to be at work events. A picture from last weekend at a rooftop bar. The same night Mark said he was at the gym. She was wearing his Columbia sweatshirt in one photo. The one that had gone missing from our laundry. I screenshotted everything. Building a case I hoped I'd never need to use. Tuesday night, Mark came home cheerful, almost giddy. Good day, I asked. Great day. Really productive meetings. He showered and changed into his nice jeans. Sprayed cologne. Going out? Just meeting some work people for drinks. Another lie. I was sure of it now. Have fun. Don't wait up. Might be a late one. He kissed my cheek and left. I waited an hour, then drove to Maya's apartment. His car was there again. This time I parked across the street and waited. At 11 p.m. they came outside together. Mark had his arm around her waist. They kissed under the streetlight like we used to do in college. Long, passionate, not a friendly goodbye. I took pictures with my phone. Hands shaking, heart pounding. Concrete evidence of what I already knew but hadn't wanted to believe. Mark came home at 1 a.m. smelling like her perfume. How were work drinks? I asked from the couch. Fine, just caught up with the team. You smell different. Do I? Probably from the bar. It was smoky in there. Another lie. The bar he'd claimed to be at was non-smoking. I went to bed before he did. Lay awake staring at the ceiling. 7 years. 7 years with someone who lied as easily as breathing. Thursday night was the final straw. Mark said he had a networking event. Put on his best shirt, the one I'd bought him for his birthday. Wish me luck. Hopefully I'll make some good connections. Good luck. I waited until I heard his car leave, then called Maya's office directly. Maya Chen, please. She's already left for the day. Can I take a message? Do you know if she went to the marketing networking event downtown? What event? Maya doesn't work in marketing. She's in graphic design. My stomach dropped. Maya wasn't even in Mark's department. They had no reason to be at work events together. I drove to the hotel where the networking event was supposedly happening. Asked the concierge about marketing events that night. No corporate events scheduled today, miss. Another lie. There was no networking event. I sat in my car outside the hotel, finally accepting the truth. Everything Mark told me was a lie. Had been for months, maybe longer. I drove home and waited. Mark stumbled in at 2 a.m. drunk and disheveled. His shirt was wrinkled. Lipstick on his collar that wasn't my shade. How was networking? Great. Made some good connections. He headed straight for the shower without looking at me. I checked his shirt pocket while the water ran. A hotel room key card? The Marriott downtown, not the hotel where the fake networking event was supposed to be. I put the key back and climbed into bed, lay there planning what came next. Friday morning, Mark left for work like nothing had happened. Have a good day, babe. You too. As soon as he was gone, I called in sick to work. I needed time to think, to process what I discovered. But first, I needed more proof. I drove to his office building and waited in the parking garage. At noon, Mark and Maya came out together, got into his car. I followed them to a restaurant in Soho, watched them through the window. They were holding hands across the table, feeding each other food. Not colleagues, not friends. A couple, they looked like a couple. I took more pictures, added them to my growing file of evidence. They went back to the office separately, smart, covering their tracks. That night, Mark came home with flowers. What are these for? Do I need a reason to buy my girlfriend flowers? Guilt flowers. Because he'd spent lunch making out with another woman. They're beautiful, thank you. I put them in water and smiled like nothing was wrong. But inside I was done, completely done. Saturday morning, Mark announced he was going to the gym. Long workout today, probably be gone 3 hours. Okay, I might run errands. As soon as he left, I grabbed my laptop and opened his Netflix account. We'd been sharing it for years, same password. The viewing history showed movies I'd never heard of. Romantic comedies watched at times when I was at work. Shows that were definitely not Mark's taste. Period dramas, fashion documentaries, Maya's taste probably. He was watching Netflix with her, using our shared account to have movie nights with his mistress. I checked our Spotify next. Our couple's playlist was still there. Mark and Babe Forever, with 47 love songs we collected over the years. But there was a new playlist. Road trip vibes created last month, full of songs I'd never heard. Songs that weren't his usual style. Songs for trips I wasn't invited on, with a woman who supposedly didn't exist in his personal life. My phone rang, Mark calling from the gym. Hey babe, running late, might grab lunch with the guys after. Okay, have fun. I hung up and immediately drove to the gym. His car wasn't there. Drove to Maya's apartment complex. There it was. Same pattern, same lies, same betrayal. I was so tired of being lied to. Sunday night I made a decision. I was going to confront him, but I needed undeniable proof first. Something he couldn't explain away or gaslight me about. The opportunity came Monday night. Mark went out for work drinks again. Left his laptop open on our kitchen table. His Gmail was logged in. 7 years together and he'd never hidden his email. Until now. I clicked on his sent messages. Started scrolling through months of emails. Hotel confirmations, dinner reservations for 2. Weekend getaway bookings to the Hamptons. Places we'd never been together. All paid for with the credit card I helped him get approved for. The credit card I'd co-signed because his credit wasn't good enough alone. I was funding his affair. I forwarded everything to my own email. Created a backup folder. Evidence of systematic betrayal. Financial infidelity on top of emotional. But the worst was yet to come. In his deleted folder, I found email drafts he'd never sent. Practice breakup letters to me. I think we've grown apart. I need space to figure out who I am. It's not you, it's me. He'd been planning his exit strategy for months, but he hadn't pulled the trigger yet. Why? I found the answer in an email to Maya. I want to leave her, but the apartment lease isn't up until September. Plus, she pays half the rent. I can't afford this place alone yet. He was using me for money, for stability, for convenience, while building a relationship with someone else. I printed everything, made copies, stored them in 3 different places. Tuesday morning, Mark left for work whistling. Good mood, I asked? Just a beautiful day. Yes, the day I was going to destroy his life. I called Taylor and asked her to come over after work. I need backup for a conversation. What kind of conversation? The kind that ends a relationship. She arrived at 6 p.m. with wine and tissues. You're really doing this? I have to. I can't live like this anymore. I showed her everything. The photos, the emails, the hotel receipts. Her jaw dropped. 7 years and he's been doing this? At least 4 years, maybe longer. What a piece of shit. At 7 p.m., Mark came home with Thai food. Thought we could have a nice dinner together. More guilt management. He'd probably spent lunch with Maya again. That's sweet. Let me just finish up some work. I texted Taylor. He's here, give me an hour. Mark set up dinner on our coffee table. Lit candles like we were celebrating something. This is nice, I said, sitting across from him. I've been thinking we should do this more often. Just the 2 of us. The irony was staggering. He wanted couple time after spending months with another woman. I'd like that. We ate in relative silence. Mark kept checking his phone. Important messages? Just work stuff. I watched him type responses, smiling at his screen like he used to smile at me. After dinner, I poured 2 glasses of wine. We need to talk. Something in my tone made him look up sharply. About what? I pulled out my phone. Showed him the photo of him kissing Maya. About this. The color drained from his face. Where did you get that? I took it. Tuesday night outside her apartment. He stared at the photo for a long moment. I could see him calculating. It's not what it looks like. What does it look like to you? Maya was upset about something. I was comforting her. By sticking your tongue down her throat, he flinched. You were spying on me? I was trying to figure out why my boyfriend of 7 years was lying to me constantly. I pulled out the next piece of evidence, hotel receipts. Care to explain these? His hands were shaking as he looked through them. Those are for work travel. To hotels in Brooklyn, where you live. No answer. I showed him the email drafts, the breakup letters he'd never sent. Or maybe you can explain why you've been practicing breaking up with me? He put his head in his hands. You went through my email? You went through another woman. Which violation is worse? Taylor knocked on the door right on cue. That's my backup, I told Mark, in case you try to gaslight me again. I let Taylor in. She nodded at Mark coldly. So this is the cheater. Taylor, this isn't your business. It became my business when you turned my friend into an anxious mess. I pulled out the printed emails. All of them. I know about the apartment lease, about using me for rent money. I know about the credit card. About funding your dates with my co-signature. I know about Netflix, about Spotify, about every lie you've told for months. Mark looked at the pile of evidence like it might catch fire. Let me explain. Explain what? 4 years of cheating? It wasn't 4 years. Natalie saw you with Maya in college. You told me Natalie was lying. His face went white. How do you? I remember everything now. Every time you made me feel crazy for having reasonable concerns. I stood up, walked to our bedroom, came back with a suitcase. Pack your shit. You're leaving tonight. This is my apartment too. Is it? Because according to your emails, I'm the one paying for it. Taylor stepped forward. You heard her? Pack your shit. Mark looked between us like he was seeing me clearly for the first time. We can work this out. Work out what? Your 4-year affair? I love you. No, you don't. You love having a safety net while you play house with someone else. I pulled out the last piece of evidence. His search history from my laptop. Engagement rings under $3,000. Best proposal spots in NYC. Wedding venues in Brooklyn. His mouth fell open. You were planning to propose to her. With money I helped you save. That's not. Were you going to invite me to the wedding? He couldn't answer. The evidence was overwhelming. How long? I asked. What? How long have you been planning to leave me for her? Silence. How long, Mark? 6 months, he whispered. But you were going to wait until the lease was up. He nodded. Use me for rent money until September, then dump me for your mistress. It wasn't like that. That's exactly what it was like. I handed him the suitcase. Pack, now, before I change my mind about being civil. Mark stood up slowly, looked around our apartment like he was seeing it for the last time. Where am I supposed to go? Maya's. Isn't that where you spend half your time anyway? She doesn't know I'm leaving you. The admission hit like a slap. She doesn't know? I was going to tell her, so you've been lying to both of us. Mark started crying. Actually crying. I never meant for it to go this far, but you let it. Every day for months. I do love you. You love having me as backup. There's a difference. He packed in silence. Taylor and I watched from the couch. 7 years of shared life going into 2 suitcases. When he finished, he stood by the door. What about us? There is no us. There hasn't been for a long time. 7 years? You threw away 7 years the minute you chose to lie to me. He left without another word. I locked the door behind him. How do you feel? Taylor asked. Free. And I meant it. The next few weeks were a blur of practical arrangements. Changing locks, removing Mark from bank accounts, getting his name off the lease, blocking his number. He tried calling from different phones, left voicemails begging for another chance. I made a mistake. I choose you. Maya means nothing to me. I deleted every message without listening to the full thing. Through mutual friends, I heard he moved in with Maya within a week. So much for needing time to figure out the apartment situation. 2 months later, I got a text from an unknown number. This is Maya. Can we talk? I ignored it, but she texted again the next day. Please, it's important. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her for coffee. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, hands shaking. Thank you for coming. What do you want? To apologize and to warn you? Warn me about what? Mark has been texting other women. I found messages on his phone. The irony was perfect. How does it feel? I asked. What? Being the one who gets cheated on? She started crying. Terrible. I can't sleep. I can't eat. Now you know how I felt for months. I'm so sorry. For everything. I knew he had a girlfriend and I didn't care. Why are you telling me this? Because I realized what kind of person he is. What kind of person I became. She wiped her eyes with a napkin. He's been seeing his ex-girlfriend. The one before you. Of course he had. Mark was a serial cheater. He told me you guys were basically roommates, that it was over. We were planning our future together. I know that now. I found your photos on his phone. The violation hit me again. He'd kept pictures of us while cheating. Why did you believe him? Because I wanted to. Because he made me feel special. Until someone else made him feel more special. She nodded miserably. I broke up with him yesterday. Good for you. He said he'd choose me over her. Just like he said he'd choose me over you. He doesn't choose anyone. He keeps everyone as options. We sat in silence for a moment. I'm sorry I helped him hurt you. I'm sorry he's hurting you now. And I meant it. Despite everything, I felt bad for her. She'd been manipulated too. Just differently. After she left, I felt a strange sense of closure. Mark hadn't changed. Probably never would. But I had. I was stronger now. Smarter. I'd learned to trust my instincts instead of gaslighting myself. 6 months later, I started dating again. Slowly. With strict boundaries and zero tolerance for lies. The first guy seemed nice until he criticized my restaurant choice. Old me would have apologized. New me left. The second guy was great until he mentioned still sharing Netflix with his ex. Red flag next. The third guy, David, was different. Honest about his past. Consistent with his words and actions. When he said he'd call, he called. When he made plans, he kept them. This feels too easy, I told Taylor after our 5th date. That's because healthy relationships are supposed to be easy. They don't require detective work and anxiety. When I told David about Mark, he listened without judgment. I'm sorry you went through that. No one deserves to be manipulated. He didn't try to fix me or rush my healing process. Just gave me space to trust again at my own pace. A year later, I was genuinely happy. Not performing happiness or walking on eggshells. Just content. At peace with my choices. I'd learned that love shouldn't make you question your sanity. That the right person won't make you feel crazy for having reasonable expectations. I heard through friends that Mark was engaged to someone new. A 22-year-old from his office. I felt sorry for her. Hoped she'd figure out what he was sooner than Maya and I did. But mostly I felt grateful. Grateful that it wasn't me anymore. Grateful for the hard-won wisdom that came from surviving his manipulation. Mark taught me what I wouldn't accept in a relationship. David showed me what I should expect instead. Both lessons were valuable. One just cost me more to learn. I am exactly where I'm supposed to be.